Commander Taewon stared at the holographic display, his scaled fingers hovering over the controls. The energy readings from the abandoned star system shouldn't exist. According to all Concord records, this region had been dead for millennia. "Are you certain these readings are accurate?" he asked, turning to his science officer. Hanul nodded, her crest flaring with excitement. "The signature is unmistakable. Something is active in that asteroid field." The research vessel Truthseeker glided silently through space, approaching the coordinates where the anomalous readings originated. Taewon had spent his career studying ancient civilizations, but this discovery could change everything the Concord believed about galactic history. "Magnify that sector," he ordered, pointing to a cluster of asteroids. The image zoomed in, revealing what appeared to be an artificial structure embedded within the largest asteroid. Its design was unlike anything in current Concord architecture, angular and utilitarian rather than the flowing organic forms preferred by most species. "Run comparison against historical databases," Taewon said, a chill running along his spine ridges. The system worked for several moments before displaying results that made the entire bridge crew fall silent. "Human," Hanul whispered, the word itself seeming to drop the temperature in the room. Humans were extinct. Every child in the Concord learned how the violent, unpredictable species had been eliminated 3,000 years ago after they attacked peaceful Concord settlements without provocation. The Day of Necessary Peace was celebrated annually across all Concord worlds, marking the regrettable but required elimination of humanity to ensure galactic stability. "That's impossible," said the navigation officer, Gi Hun. "Their homeworld and all colonies were destroyed in the final resolution." Taewon tapped his claws against the console. "Apparently not all of them. Approach with caution. Full shields." The Truthseeker moved closer to the asteroid field, sensors probing the mysterious structure. As they drew nearer, additional details became visible: power signatures, artificial gravity, and most disturbing of all, signs of recent maintenance. "This station isn't abandoned," Hanul reported. "It's active. And it appears to be running automated systems." Taewon opened a channel to Concord Command. "This is Commander Taewon of the research vessel Truthseeker. We have discovered what appears to be a functioning human outpost in Sector 87G, requesting immediate." The communication system went dead. All external channels simultaneously failed. "What happened?" Taewon demanded. The communications officer, Yoonji, frantically worked her controls. "We're being jammed. Something's blocking all outgoing signals." Ji-hun looked up from his station, eyes wide. "Commander, detecting multiple objects emerging from the nebula." The main viewscreen shifted to show several sleek vessels moving with perfect coordination. Their design was unlike anything in Concord records, more advanced, more elegant than the crude human ships from historical archives. "Those can't be human," Yoonji said, her voice shaking. But the symbols visible on their hulls told a different story. The stylized Earth, surrounded by stars, the emblem of humanity, was clear even from this distance. "Full power to engines," Taewon ordered. "We need to warn the Concord." The Truthseeker turned, accelerating away from the asteroid field, but the mysterious ships moved with impossible speed, surrounding them in moments. "They're scanning us," Hanul reported. "Our systems are being." One by one, the ship's systems began shutting down. Emergency lights flickered on as main power failed. "They've disabled us without firing a single shot," Ji-hun said in disbelief. A signal penetrated their communications array, the first external transmission they'd received since being jammed. "Attention Concord vessel," came a calm voice, speaking perfect modern standard. "Your ship is now under our control. Do not attempt resistance. You will be boarded and your crew transferred to our vessel for questioning." Taewon looked around at his terrified crew. The humans, if they truly were humans, had technology far beyond current Concord capabilities. How was this possible? The official histories claimed humans had been primitive compared to Concord species, dangerous only because of their aggression and unpredictability. "Commander," Hanul said quietly, "if humans survived, if they'd been out here all this time, developing in secret." She didn't need to finish. The implications were clear.
Everything they knew about the most significant conflict in Concord history might be wrong.
The ship shuddered as something attached to their hull.
The boarding had begun.
All crew, Tae-won announced, remain calm and cooperate.
Our priority is survival.
He looked one last time at the human ships surrounding them. We may be the first Concord citizens to learn the truth about what really happened 3,000 years ago. Admiral Do-hyun stood at the observation deck of the Whisper of Vengeance, looking out at the stars. The massive generation ship had been his home for the past 30 years, one rotation of command duty while others slept in suspension. Soon his watch would end, and another admiral would take his place while he returned to the dreamless sleep of cryostasis. But today, everything changed. Admiral called Ji-woo as she entered the deck, her footsteps echoing in the cavernous space.
The outpost in Sector 87G has been discovered.
A Concord research vessel approached and scanned the facility before our security systems could fully conceal it. Do-hyun turned slowly, his weathered face showing no surprise.
After all this time, he said softly. Show me.
Ji-woo activated her tablet, displaying footage of the Serpentine Srick vessel approaching the hidden observation post. The trap had worked perfectly. The Concord ship was now captured, its crew detained by the stealth vessels that had been waiting nearby for centuries.
3,000 years of preparation, Do-hyun said. Our ancestors would be proud.
He walked to the central command console and placed his palm on the scanner.
The system recognized his DNA and authority, activating a sequence that had never been used before. Ghost Protocol Authorization, Do-hyun, Fleet Admiral, Generation 7. Code phrase, Earth remembers.
The ship's AI responded in a calm female voice, Ghost Protocol confirmed. Awakening sequence initiated for all primary personnel.
Estimated completion time, 6 hours. Throughout the massive ship, rows of suspension pods began their careful warming cycles. Thousands of humans, specialists bred and trained for this specific moment in history, would soon open their eyes for the first time in decades or centuries.
Alert the sister ships, Do-hyun ordered.
The time has come. Ji-woo nodded, sending the coded signal that would reach the 5 other generation ships hidden throughout nearby star systems. Each vessel carried 20,000 humans, the descendants of those who had escaped Earth's destruction 3 millennia ago. Do-hyun walked through the central corridor toward the military wing.
The ship had been designed not just as a vessel of survival but as an instrument of perfect vengeance. For 3,000 years, humanity had traveled between the stars at sublight speed, maintaining their culture, advancing their technology, and planning their return. The military preparation chamber was already active when he arrived. Special Forces soldiers were emerging from stasis, their bodies enhanced with modifications that would give them advantages against each Concord species. Some had reinforced skeletal structures to combat high-gravity species, others had enhanced vision to detect the natural camouflage abilities of the morphs, and all carried genetic modifications to resist the various bioweapons the Concord had used during the original war. General Sangmin, Do-hyun greeted the first fully awakened soldier.
Welcome back to the world of the conscious.
The general blinked away the last effects of suspension and stood straighter.
Is it time, Admiral? The Concord has found one of our observation posts. The Ghost Protocol is active. Sangmin's face showed grim satisfaction. 3,000 years. Longer than any revenge in human history.
This is more than revenge, Do-hyun reminded him. This is justice. They walked together to the tactical room where newly awakened officers were already reviewing the plans refined across generations.
Maps of Concord space updated regularly by hidden probes and sleeper agents filled the displays. Our ancestors sacrificed everything, Do-hyun told the gathering officers.
They gave up Earth, allowed it to be destroyed as a distraction so we could escape. They endured knowing they would never see justice in their lifetimes, but trusting that we would deliver it. In the medical wing, Dr. Min-ji oversaw the awakening of the scientific teams.
For centuries, human researchers had worked in rotation, developing technologies far beyond what the Concord possessed.
While the Concord had grown complacent in their dominance, humanity had evolved in the shadows, driven by a single purpose.
Status of the sleeper agents? Do-hyun asked as Ji-woo joined him again. all receiving the activation signal.
Within days, our people embedded in Concord society will begin the information phase.
Du Hyun nodded.
Hundreds of humans, genetically modified to appear as various Concord species, had been infiltrating key positions for centuries. Some were dozens of generations removed from their original insertion, families dedicated to maintaining their cover until this moment.
And the captured Concord vessel? Their commander, Tae-won, is being prepared for the truth. Du Hyun looked at the stars once more.
Somewhere out there, the ruins of Earth still orbited a distant sun. The homeworld was gone, but humanity had survived, hidden and patient. Begin the approach to Concord space, he ordered.
After 3,000 years, humanity returns to claim its place in the galaxy.
Commander Tae-won sat in a comfortable but clearly secure room aboard the human vessel. He had expected torture, perhaps execution. Instead, they had treated him with professional courtesy, and now a human female named Soo-jin stood before him, activating a holographic display. "What I'm about to show you contradicts everything you've been taught," Soo-jin said, her voice calm but firm.
These are the actual historical records of the war between humanity and the Concord. The display flickered to life, showing footage that appeared ancient yet was preserved with remarkable clarity. It showed human ships approaching Concord worlds with peace signals, carrying diplomats and scientists. Then, without warning, Concord warships opened fire.
"This can't be real," Tae-won said, his scales rippling with distress. "Our histories clearly state that humans attacked first, that your species was dangerously aggressive."
Soo-jin nodded patiently. "Your founders rewrote history. We weren't aggressors, we were explorers. The original Concord species feared us not because we were violent, but because we adapted too quickly.
They saw our potential and decided to eliminate us before we could become equals."
More footage played, showing the systematic destruction of human colonies. Tae-won watched in horror as civilian targets were specifically chosen for elimination.
"If this is true, why didn't other Concord species object?" he asked. "Some did," Soo-jin replied. "Their records were purged, their protesters silenced. The lie became the foundation of the Concord itself." Meanwhile, across Concord space, the carefully planted seeds of truth began to bloom. In the capital city of Harmonia, a respected historian named Daeho stood before his office window, looking out at the preparations for the 3,000th commemoration of humanity's defeat. For 2 centuries, his family line had maintained their cover, passing their true identity down through carefully coded messages and secret training. Daeho's actual name was Sungho, and he was human, genetically modified to appear as a member of the Telari species. Today, he had received the signal he had spent his entire life waiting for. He turned to his computer terminal and inserted a special data crystal, bypassing the security systems with access codes his ancestors had planted centuries ago. Within moments, he had connected to the central archives, ready to upload the true historical records that had been preserved by humanity. 3,000 years of lies, he whispered to himself, undone with a single command.
All across the Concord, similar agents activated.
A financial administrator on the banking world of Nexos transferred funds to predetermined accounts that would fund the coming transition. A military officer on the fortress world of Kaldar inserted subtle code into defense systems that would render them useless at the critical moment. Each agent had been placed with incredible foresight, some family lines maintaining their cover for dozens of generations. Back on the human vessel, Tae-won watched in growing shock as Soo-jin showed him evidence of how thoroughly his civilization had been infiltrated. "How is this possible?" he asked. "Some of these agents must be hundreds of years old."
"Not the same individuals," Soo-jin explained. "Family lines dedicated to the mission.
Children raised knowing their true purpose, modifying their appearances through generations to maintain their cover." Tae-won's mind reeled at the patience and dedication such a plan required.
But why wait so long? If you had this level of infiltration, you could have struck centuries ago. Soo-jin's expression turned grim. "We needed to be certain.
The original genocide was nearly complete, only a fraction of our species escaped.
We couldn't risk failure. Every aspect of the plan had to be perfect. On the Concord homeworld, Minister Junesio, another human agent passing as a high-ranking official, accessed the planetary defense grid. For 7 generations, his family had worked toward this position of authority. Today, he would ensure that when the human fleet arrived, not a single defensive weapon would fire. The true genius of our plan, Sujin told Tae-won, wasn't just surviving or developing technology. It was patience. We didn't just want revenge, we wanted justice. And for that, we needed the truth to be undeniable. Tae-won looked at the evidence before him, thousands of documents, videos, and records that contradicted everything he had been taught. His entire understanding of history, of his civilization's moral foundation, was crumbling. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Sujin's expression softened slightly. "Now we reveal everything. Not just to military leaders or politicians, but to every citizen of the Concord. The day of commemoration you were preparing to celebrate will instead become the day when the truth is finally known." Across the stars, the human ships moved silently toward Concord space, while their agents prepared for the moment when 3,000 years of deception would finally end. The central plaza of Harmonia glittered with celebration lights. Delegates from all Concord species gathered for the 3,000th commemoration of humanity's defeat. Massive holographic displays showed reenactments of the necessary war that had eliminated the dangerous human threat 3 millennia ago. High Chancellor Roxanne, leader of the Concord Council, approached the grand podium. The celebration reached its height as he raised his arms for silence. 3,000 years of peace, he began. 3,000 years of prosperity since we made the difficult but necessary decision to eliminate the human threat. In orbit above, the planetary defense officer noticed something strange on her monitors. The automated defense grid was cycling through an unexpected diagnostic routine. "Sir," she called to her superior, "something's happening with the defense systems." Before her commander could respond, all screens went dark. When they reactivated seconds later, they showed an impossible sight: 6 massive vessels had appeared in orbit, seemingly from nowhere. Their design was unlike anything in Concord records. "Shields," the commander shouted. "Activate planetary defenses." But nothing happened. Throughout the defense network, commands were entered but systems failed to respond. On the planet's surface, Chancellor Roxanne continued his speech, unaware of the crisis unfolding above. "We remember the sacrifice of those brave Concord soldiers who..." The massive screens around the plaza suddenly changed. The propaganda images of human aggression vanished, replaced by actual historical footage showing Concord ships firing on peaceful human vessels. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Then all communication devices across the planet simultaneously activated, projecting the same message. Admiral Do-hyun's face appeared on every screen. "People of the Concord. I am Admiral Do-hyun of the human fleet. What you are seeing is the truth of what happened 3,000 years ago." In orbit, the Concord defense fleet moved to engage the human vessels. Their most advanced warships fired energy weapons at the intruders, but the shots dissipated harmlessly against advanced shields. The human ships responded with precision strikes that disabled the Concord vessels without destroying them. "Your leadership has lied to you for 3,000 years, Do-hyun continued, his message playing across every world in Concord space. Humanity was not aggressive. We sought peaceful contact. Your founding species feared our potential and attempted to exterminate us." On Harmonia, panic spread through the celebration. Security forces tried to evacuate the leadership, but found their vehicles wouldn't start. Nothing electronic seemed to work properly. Chancellor Roxanne stared in horror as transport ships descended from the sky, landing in the plaza. The doors opened to reveal human soldiers, a species that was supposed to be extinct. "My ancestors escaped the genocide," Do-hyun's message continued. "While your civilizations celebrated our destruction, we waited in the darkness between stars, planning our return. Not for revenge, but for justice." Across the Concord worlds, human agents revealed themselves. Officials who had served for decades, some for their entire lives, shed their disguises and took control of key facilities. The infiltration was so complete that resistance was nearly impossible.
On the Concord Military Command Station, General Minho, who had served as a respected Concord officer for 40 years, locked down the facility with a single command code. His true identity as a human operative was revealed as he addressed his shocked staff. "No harm will come to anyone who doesn't resist," he assured them.
"This is not an extermination. It is a correction." Back in the plaza, Commander Taewon stepped out of one of the human transports alongside Sujin. He approached the trembling Chancellor.
"These humans have shown me the truth," Taewon said.
"I've seen the actual records. Everything we've been taught is a lie." Chancellor Roxanne sputtered, "These are fabrications. Humanity was dangerous."
"The only dangerous ones were your ancestors," Sujin interrupted. "And those like you who maintain the lie."
Admiral Doohyun's ship landed in the plaza an hour later.
The human commander walked down the ramp with dignity, flanked by officers who had waited their entire lives for this moment. The crowd of Concord citizens watched in stunned silence. 3,000 years ago, Doohyun addressed the gathered crowd directly. "Your leaders tried to exterminate my species because they feared our potential. They nearly succeeded. But a few thousand humans escaped." He gestured to the ships above. "We could have returned with vengeance. We could have done to you what was done to us. Instead, we choose justice. The truth will be known. Those responsible for maintaining the lie will face consequences. But the innocent will not suffer for the crimes of their ancestors." Across Concord space, the pattern repeated. Strategic facilities fell under human control without bloodshed. The truth spread like wildfire through communication networks. 3,000 years of careful planning had created a victory more complete than any military conquest could have achieved. The new Concord Assembly Station hung in space like a perfect crystal, its design blending architectural elements from all member species, including, for the first time, humanity. 1 year had passed since the day that humans had returned and revealed the truth about their near extinction. Taewon stood beside Admiral Doohyun on the observation deck, watching representatives from across the galaxy arrive for the ratification ceremony. The last year had been difficult but transformative for Concord society. "I never expected to help rebuild our entire civilization," Taewon admitted, his scales shifting to reflect his contemplative mood.
Doohyun nodded. "Many thought our plan would end with destruction. Some of our people wanted that, an eye for an eye." He gestured to the gathering below.
"But across 3,000 years, we evolved beyond simple revenge." The chamber below them filled with delegates. Some species had embraced the truth immediately, horrified by what their ancestors had done. Others had resisted, unable to accept that their society was built on a foundation of genocide and lies. But the evidence had been overwhelming and meticulously preserved. "What surprised me most," Taewon said, "was how few lives were lost during the transition." "That was by design," Doohyun explained. "Each ship captain, each agent, had strict orders. We wanted justice, not massacre." The former leaders of the Concord, those who had knowingly perpetuated the lies, now faced justice in fair trials. But the vast majority of citizens had been victims of the deception themselves and were welcomed into the new order. Below them, Sungho, formerly known as Daeho, took his place among the human delegation. After centuries of his family living under disguise, he now proudly represented humanity in his true form. "How did your people maintain their purpose for so long?" Taewon asked. 3,000 years is longer than some civilizations exist." Doohyun smiled slightly. "We had no choice but to be patient. Our generation ships traveled at sublight speeds between stars while we developed the technology needed for our return. Each generation was taught our true history and raised with a sacred purpose." On the assembly floor, Sujin presented the new charter for ratification. The document established a truly equal Concord, with safeguards to prevent any species from dominating others. The historical archives, now accurate and complete, would be required study for all citizens. "Your people could have annihilated us," Taewon said quietly. "Your technology far surpassed ours. You could have taken revenge in the most complete way." "And become what we hated most," replied Doohyun.
True revenge wasn't eliminating your species, it was proving our moral superiority by choosing justice over genocide.
The chamber erupted in applause as the charter was formally ratified. Species that had once celebrated the destruction of humanity now welcomed human representatives as equals. The deception had ended, a new era had begun. In orbit around the assembly station, human colony ships prepared for departure.
After 3 millennia confined to generation vessels, humanity would once again establish permanent settlements on worlds throughout the galaxy.
"There's something I've wanted to ask," Taewon said.
"During all those years in space, didn't your people ever consider abandoning the plan? Finding a distant world and simply starting over?"
Du Hyun looked thoughtful.
"Some argued for that.
But we couldn't allow the lie to stand, not just for our sake, but for all the species in the Concord who were also victims of the deception."
Minister Jun Seo, who had helped disable Harmonia's defenses during the first strike, joined them on the observation deck.
"The first human city on Harmonia breaks ground tomorrow," he reported.
"A fitting symbol, I think." Du Hyun nodded.
"From the planet where our extinction was celebrated to a world where we build a new future."
Below them, the newly elected Concord Council took their positions.
For the first time, the governing body included representatives from all species, with no single group holding dominant power.
"What happens now?" Taewon asked.
"Now we do what humans have always done," Du Hyun replied.
"We explore. We build. We create.
But this time, as equals among the stars." As the formal ceremony concluded, ships from across the galaxy illuminated their exteriors in celebration. The old Concord emblem, which had symbolized the lie for 3,000 years, was replaced with a new design showing all member species' home worlds, including Earth, arranged in a perfect circle. 3,000 years of patience, Du Hyun said, looking out at the stars.
"And now, finally, peace based on truth."
Taewon nodded, understanding now what his people had failed to see millennia ago. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or adaptability, but their capacity to pursue justice across time itself, never forgetting, never surrendering, and ultimately, choosing reconciliation over destruction when victory was finally achieved.